Good morning everybody and welcome to the Holden Centre. On behalf of the board of the Collingwood Football Club, it is my pleasure this morning to announce that after a forensic report put together by our football director Geoff Walsh, his recommendation to the Collingwood Football Club board, which was adopted yesterday morning, is to extend the tenure of Nathan Buckley as our senior men's coach for the next 2 seasons. We're delighted that Nathan has accepted our offer of his contract renewal, and we're looking forward to rebuilding our football club as a whole in accordance with what we've been doing with our review and building our blueprint for the future. We're confident that a major announcement regarding the coaching position gives us the first tentpole for us to continue building what we want to do at this football club. We've looked deep within ourselves, we've acknowledged the mistakes and the shortcomings of our football program and our club as a whole, and we believe we've identified where we need to take our club to get back to the position that we want it to be as the preeminent football and sporting club in Australia. Part of that decision is to reappoint Nathan, and I'd like to thank him on behalf of everyone at the Collingwood Football Club for taking up the commission. Thank you very much, Nathan. So if you'd like to ask any questions, Geoff Walsh to my right, clearly Nathan next to me. So any questions, fire away.
Nathan, congratulations. Do you think it's a risk on behalf of the board to reappoint you?
Firstly, I'm rapt to be supported into the role. Woke up this morning to the news and was suitably humbled and a little bit nervous, to be honest. I think I've always had a really strong understanding of what's going to happen and how it needs to be. Facts are, we've got a lot of work to do, and I'm rapt that the review and the recommendation from the review that was run through the club and by Geoff Walsh and Peter Murphy supported retaining me as senior coach. There are risks associated with every decision that you make, but I would hope that and trust that the information that was gleaned and the thoroughness of the review was such that I'm glad that I've been supported to continue my tenure and to continue the work that we've put in place the last couple of years.
So what problems did the review then find that's brought the club to the position that it's in on field?
Well, look, I suppose, Rob, there's a number of components in footy and footy programs, and and in no particular order. There's coaching, there's player development, there's player leadership, there's leadership within the department, there's list management, there's recruiting, there's your conditioning team, there's your medical and your physio. So all of those areas, getting them right contributes or almost guarantees a successful program. If you get all those areas right, you're going to run a successful program. The good thing, or the great thing that I was really encouraged about, was the amount of feedback that both players and staff, in a really positive and constructive way, gave feedback on all those areas. Now, obviously, to be sitting 13th at the end of this year and not having been in finals for a few years, it's fairly obvious that we haven't got all those areas right, and the feedback from our people tells us that. And the good thing that I take really strong heart out of is that the feedback is constructive, it's definite, it does go to change in all those areas that I mentioned in some way, shape or form. They're all commented on. So I'm really encouraged that the thoroughness of and the willingness of people to contribute to our future will be acted on.
Why then did you decide to stick with Nathan?
Well, I think partly for all those reasons, in terms of thinking how strongly can he contribute to all those areas. And he's not perfect. He knows that. We know that. But the really strong, encouraging thing for me again was Nathan's willingness to engage in that feedback himself, to take it on board, and he hasn't seen the review in its entirety as yet. But in terms of my discussions with him, I was really strongly encouraged to support Nathan's reappointment unequivocally on the basis of our discussions about what our department and our people were telling us about all those areas that I mentioned. So I have great faith. I had great faith that the commentary, the points made, were being listened to and will continue to be listened to.
The pros and cons of the review, the pros must be really comforting for you. The negatives, how do you take them on board, and how do you change, I suppose, without seeing the review? How humbling was it to be told that these are these areas that you might have to improve?
Yeah, I haven't been privy to the whole, as Walsh said, to the whole information through the review yet, but obviously that's going to be the first thing of the first order of business for myself and Geoff stepping out of here is to look at what level of change and where that change needs to occur for us to continue going forward and to grow at a greater rate than we're growing at the moment. A lot of that is within me, as you said, Mark. So I know that in the last, in my experiences as a senior coach over the last 6 years, I've learnt a hell of a lot about myself, a hell of a lot more about a club that I love and that I know pretty well already, and about the people that we have in the football program and through the wider club community. There's just so much talent and passion that exists in this football club. We're pretty good at reminding ourselves about what we're not doing well. We're pretty good at listening to the external expectation and commentary about what we're not doing well. What we need to get better at as a club is actually reminding ourselves about what we do well, and that came through loud and clear in the review. This isn't the first time that the club sat down and had a look at where it is and where it needs to go. I think we've done that every year. We do it consistently and continually through seasons to try and improve and to try and get better in a pretty tough competition. I'm prepared to work with the rest of the leadership in the football department to find a better way to improve ourselves. And that doesn't mean that we're throwing everything out, but it means reinforcing the things that we do well, as I said, and making sure that we make the right change in the right areas to give ourselves a chance to be sustainably successful in a really tough competition. And we haven't been able to do that in recent years.
What change will there be?
Well, as I touched on, and I listed 7 or 8 different components, Michael, that make up a footy program and a footy department. The commentary around all those was, when I say significant, that's not a negative connotation. It was significant enough for us to address the program top to bottom. But change doesn't necessarily mean sack this person, sack that person. It could be, and it will be, different structuring. Resource an area better that we haven't resourced it before. There was some commentary around some of the material things around the place in terms of layout and getting better flow through. And they're minutiae for you people, I understand that. But they're important for us in terms of getting a program right. So what sort of change there'll be, it will be varied in a number of the areas that I mentioned earlier. But it doesn't mean necessarily that we're clearing the decks. Far from that.
And I think it's important also to note and to sort of add to your question, Mark, is that while Nathan is sitting back and being analysed and doing enough self-analysation of himself, the key point here is that we have stripped the club bare. And we've all had a good look at ourselves, and we've all put ourselves up to be examined, to be scrutinised, and to put ourselves forward to decide what's the best way forward for our football club. And I think that's what's been a really good experience so far. The rest of the blueprint is still yet to be presented from Peter Murphy and also from Chris Thomas, but that'll happen in the next few weeks. And then we'll get on with the business of making this club great. So it is a humbling experience. But at the same time, I'm very strong in what Geoff Walsh just said, and that is that there are good people, and sometimes we all need to be coached. Sometimes we need to just realise whether we're off step a little bit and get back into step. And that's where we hope to be able to going forward. Personally, I've never felt, I'll take that back. Personally, I have felt as buoyant about this football club, but never more buoyant. And from the position where we are today, we can really take the steps forward. We've made hard decisions. The easiest decision in the last couple of days would have been to sack the coach. The hard decision is to look within and work through as a whole club and stand side by side so that it's not just a logo or a slogan, it's actually what we do here. And make a firm commitment to our supporters, to our members, our sponsors and to the football world in general. The Collingwood Football Club will do everything in its power in a methodical, analytical way to deliver what we need to, and that is great results on the ground, great results off the ground, and to be a club that people are proud of.
And does your presidency hinge on this working?
Well, I think everybody's position hinges on everything working. It's as simple as that. But my presidency's been around for a long time. There's, you get judged on many different ways, shapes and forms. What we have to do is deliver on making Collingwood great again. That is the only job that any of us have. Simple as that.
You said that you acknowledged mistakes through this process. What have been the mistakes?
Well, I'm not going to go into mistakes because we have to fix them. But there also have been decisions made that may have impacted on what happened on the field that have been the right decisions for the club. So there's a whole lot of things that go on around a club that have to be taken into account. So what we've done is we've done all that. Now we're going forward. We've got the blueprint that's been put down. It's going to be tabled by Geoff Walsh as far as the football department's concerned. He'll sit now with the senior coach, make those decisions going forward.
Geoff, do you think Eddie needs someone like a coaching director, something like that, sort of one specifically been talking about?
Eddie or Nathan? Did you say Eddie?
He said that, but yeah.
A coaching director.
Did you say that I should be the? Did you say that I should be the coaching director?
Look, in terms of advice, in terms of call it mentor, call it whatever, I'm sure that anyone in any leadership role doesn't operate in a vacuum, and they can't operate in a vacuum. Because if you're only talking to yourself, you're pretty soon you're going to end up running out of ideas. So while specifically a coaching director, specifically director of strategy or whatever you want to call it, no, we haven't gone down that path. But certainly I know that we will investigate opportunities like that can bring better, fresh, newer ideas to the table that can be then discussed, thrown around, agreed on, tossed out, whatever. But I am confident that the senior coach won't operate in a vacuum.
Clark, can you describe your year dealing with the volume of external noise that you, how you coach, your failings, your positives?
Yeah. I spoke to the playing group directly after the game on Saturday night and then to the staff just this morning. This has been the most enjoyable year of my coaching career, despite the public scrutiny. I felt as connected, as empowered, as driven as I ever have before through this season.
Why is that?
I think I've grown and developed. I mean, as we're talking about change. It happens. Everyone changes. It's just a matter of whether it's the right change, whether it's positive change. I know that I'm in a better place now to lead this football club and the football team better than I ever have before, and I'm looking forward to that challenge.
Can I just on that? Everyone talks about your football knowledge, and it's
Yep.
fantastic. So what change are you talking about? Are we talking about your personality, your character, your persona with the players? I mean, What areas have you really improved on, you think, this year?
Oh, without getting too philosophical, Robbo, I reckon as you get older you get to know yourself a little bit better. And when that happens, I think you understand the decisions that need to be made, the space that you need to create for the other people in the environment. The football programs at AFL level and at Collingwood are massive programs. There are a lot of people in them. There's a lot of work to do on relationship building, support and care mechanisms, the right time to challenge and to poke and to prod. That is part of the responsibility of a senior coach, and I'm one of probably 5 or 6 leaders on a pretty flat organisational chart, on a pretty flat structure. I think the perception still is externally is that the senior coach sits on top of the mountain and just sends down his decrees from there. That's not the way that we operate. It's not the way that it operates. I'm far more open than I've ever been before, and that's happened progressively over my life in footy, and I've learned a lot more over the last 6 years in my time as senior coach. There's a lot of things that we're doing well. We've got a lot of great people, and I feel like I'm in the best position I've ever been to be able to harness the great in us and to be able to challenge the not so great to be better. It's a tough comp. The premiers from last year just missed the finals. Melbourne missed the finals, they've had a bad year, and West Coast make the finals, they've had a good year. 10 other clubs sit where we sit at the moment, and we don't want to be there. We would have liked to have bounced a lot quicker than we have. The last 2 years have been disappointing. We expected to bounce quicker than we have. But if we've bottomed and we're on our way back, and I believe we are, we've got to get every decision right now to give ourselves a chance to get back to where we want to get to, but it's not just going to happen, and I'm looking forward to playing my role in that.
When you said you woke up this morning to the news,
Yeah.
How was that conveyed to you? Was it a text message? Was it a phone call from who?
No, I met with the board yesterday, and that was off the back of what Walsh had arranged, and that discussion was always going to take place. And I think that the way that Walsh and the board have handled the review, gathering all the information, etc., has been first class. I think the communication to the members is important, and we've been really clean and clear with that, despite some of the commentary around it. I felt really comfortable with the process, and I think our people felt comfortable with the process, knowing that there's a great trust in where the information was going and who was going to make the recommendations, because I think they're good football people. Walsh is a great football person. He's been around the block a few times. He's seen it. He knows what success looks like. So whether it was to step up or to step back, I would have accepted that for whatever was for the betterment of the football club. I was notified. Ed gave me a call, and the offer was made for. We'd like to extend your tenure for 2 more years. Called late yesterday, and as I said, waking up this morning with the realisation of what the day was going to be. I was really looking forward to coming into the club and getting to work with a great group of people. And as I said, yes, there's going to be change, and we need to discuss that going forward. But the excitement and the nervousness and the passion that I have for this job is greater than it's ever been before. The passion I have for this club is greater than it's ever been before, and my belief in my ability to help pull a successful football program together is pretty strong too.
Sorry, Nick, I'll give you next go, your next question, but just as a bit of a funny line, if you like, from yesterday. As we said last week, we had a board meeting, and then we chewed over the information that was presented to us by Geoff. We had a meeting yesterday, and Nathan spoke to us. And first of all, can I just say that every step of the way, Nathan has said, I'm not asking for the job. You guys make the call on what you think is best for Collingwood at every stage. He couldn't have made a decision to ask him not to come back any easier for everybody who was in that position. So thank you for that, Nathan, for always putting the club ahead of yourself. But it was funny yesterday after we finished and the board had ratified the decision, I rang Nathan, and then I rang Nathan, and then I rang him a third time, which time I thought maybe he'd done the runner on me, and I then rang the real coach of the Collingwood Football Club, Nathan Buckley, who did answer the phone, and I was able to convey the message that we'd like him to take the job again. So for a moment there it was a bit...
I was screening him.
He normally has to do that between 10 at night and 3 in the morning, but no, his phone was on silent as it turned out, and so we were able to get the message through in the end.
Much of the speculation and the external noise came from media interviews you did last year, where you certainly implied that you didn't make the finals this year, and that was it. Do you now regret being so upfront?
No, I'm always prepared to say what I think, and I would have thought that the expectation of the role of senior coach in the football at Collingwood in the football world is pretty high, and I think expectations are important to perform. They're important to strive and to succeed, but they can also be a hurdle that you trip up and you can trip over. They can make it harder to perform and harder to succeed. I would have thought halfway through this year that it would have been very hard to see me in the role going forward into season 2018 and 19. To be honest, it's probably the board looking to analyse a little bit deeper about why we're in the situation that we're in and what are the inhibiting factors have been to our success and what are the things that we're actually doing well. It's probably with the advent of the review process that has provided me with the opportunity to continue in my role, to be honest, because if there wasn't that, then it would only be wins and losses, and it would only be expectation versus performance. And I think in many ways we've got the expectation wrong. We've got to get the decisions right, and we've got to get the process right, and then the results will come.
Is that benchmarking him for yourself or not?
Yeah, to be the best we can be every day. So that might sound like you're not really sure on where you're going. We're going up. We've got to go up, but to do that, we've got to make the right decisions at the right times, and and with the right people. And that's where Walsh is charged with that has been given that mandate by the board. I did say to the players again after round 23, one of our players had said that we're not getting what we deserve. The facts are that you do get what you deserve, and your performances are a product of a whole range of things, as Walsh has detailed. So there's plenty of areas that we need to get right, and there's plenty of work for us to do. And I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that.
Did you recommend Walsh? Did you have a recommendation in your review to the board, or did you just apply opinion and facts?
On Nathan's position? Yeah, not so much as a result, but accompanying the feedback from the staff and the players, which, as I've said once before, I say again, was outstanding. It allowed me to make a recommendation, and my recommendation was reappoint the senior coach.
You spoke to the players and the staff. This forensic review that you described it as. Did you go outside the football club and speak to, I don't know, for example, leadership experts, relationship, people? Did you go that far, or just keep it in-house?
No, I restricted it to our own people. But there's a number of forms that they're able to make that feedback available. Some anonymously, some up front, some through surveys, some through one-on-one interviews, some through small groups. So I think, but certainly, in my time in football, which is over 3 decades, I haven't been part of a review that has been as comprehensive. So I'm really comfortable that the information we got from the people who know best, our people who are working here every day, that the advice and the commentary and the suggestions were all comments and suggestions that had investment in them, investment in this footy club. So I felt that I was going to the right people right from off the top, and pleasingly I got a robust response. You go out to the market, say, and you get 3 people who want to comment, or you get no one, or you get a handful. you are left a little bit either bewildered, disappointed, wondering about the process. But I'm so confident that the process has been thorough and that the process has covered such a wide-ranging and diverse amount of or number of topics that we'll get it right.
How many on staff? We're talking 60, 70, 80, 100?
Well, combined players and staff, we would have had over 100 responses.
And just on Mark, to finish your question, Peter Murphy's brief is looking at outside the club and a holistic approach. Yep, and all sports, everything, and business. Yes.
Did the board or the review at any stage look at alternatives?
Well, Tony, we all live in the real world, don't we? We go to the footy every week. We're not doing it in blissful isolation. So you look at what's the best result for the football club. But there's no point having a dog and doing the barking yourself. So somebody robbing the store while we're here, by the way. We're not providing a decoy. So Tony, what we did was Geoff, as part of his remit, was to come up with the best setup for Collingwood going forward. So I'm not going to answer that question. The situation was this. It's as simple as this. Geoff was told to go and look at everything, and he came back with a recommendation which we endorsed. So I'll put it to you. Do you look around and see what's around? Of course you do. Do you? Yeah. So have I sort of backtracked on my own answer? Probably a little bit there, but the answer. So the answer is though that you do that constantly. I mean, this is an industry that's always looking over at the opposition to see what's going on with its players, coaches, psychiatrists, psychologists, sports welfare, you name it. Everybody's looking at everybody. But not spoken to or made offers to or anything like that. So I just want to make that clear. Yeah, no, but I'm making it clear in case, because I have to be very clear, because we get questioned on what we say quite a lot at this place, even though we actually say it and do it. So, no.
Sorry? Yeah, I'm not going to comment specifically on any of the areas because that's not appropriate, because one of the things that not one of the things, but what we'll start now is to, now that the coach's appointment has been confirmed, areas that he must and will be involved in, we'll start to discuss all those areas with him, because it's not fair to anyone for me to say here what sort of commentary or what sort of feedback has taken place. The important thing that everyone will know and should know is that the advice hasn't and won't fall on deaf ears. As I say, I keep saying it, I'm just so thankful and pleased that our staff and our players are invested in the future of this club to the extent that they want to speak up and make some commentary, and it won't fall on deaf ears. But to isolate any particular area at this stage, it's something that we'll discuss internally, and then the proof will be in the pudding as far as we go into the months and years ahead.
Nathan, go back to what you said about expectations. Have you been slightly guilty as a club of overrating your playing list?
I think over the years we've been pretty good at chest beating in many ways. We are a proud club, and I don't think we will ever step back from that. But I think when you put yourself out there the way that we have and we do, you invite criticism probably at a greater rate than potentially other clubs do. But I'm quite circumspect with that. In the end, the work that you do, the decisions you make, and the results that you get are a product of each other. We've still got a lot of work to do. We've got, as I said, right now when we analyse where we've been, potentially the last 4 years missing finals, and I've spoken to supporters, I've spoken to our staff. There is a lot of criticism. There's a lot of there's a lot of critiquing of who we are, where we are, and what we're doing as an organisation. We're really clear on who we are, and I think this review reinforced that. to the people internally. What I can say to our supporters is that we want to emphasise and reinforce the good things that we're doing, because we're not a basket case. There's a lot of great stuff that's happening. There's a lot of great people doing some great work. But we need to get the strategy and the decisions right, and then we need to have the discipline to maintain that direction. And that is what will give us the chance to be successful. And there's no guarantees. We don't have a God-given right to success. We don't have a God-given right to play in finals, and we don't have a God-given right to be premiers. That is earned, and we need to do more earning.
Nathan, you spoke of how halfway through the year you knew you were in trouble.
Yeah.
Then he said you couldn't have made it easier for the club if they did decide to let you go.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now, sitting here with a 2-year extension, given everything that's happened?
You know, as I said, I'm as humbled and as excited as I've ever been in my time in footy. I've been individually, I've been through a bit, and as a part of this football club, we've been through a bit. I've got no doubt that the resilience and passion that's been shown. Let's talk specifically, first and foremost, by the playing group, and that the way that they've attacked everything that's been asked of them in recent times. And I'd say over the last 2 seasons as a time frame, for instance, but in particular in the back half of this year, the way that they were able to pull together, come together, commit to each other, commit to the work that they'd done, and commit to the football club and the people around them, is a template of what we need to be going forward and what we want to see going forward. And that emboldens me in my role to continue to grow, to continue to develop, to stay as open as I possibly can to find the best solution. Because we've got great people in here. It's just a matter of maximising that. And as I said, I feel enormously humbled to be supported into the role again. It's not without its challenges, clearly, but I'm really confident that with Geoff, with the information that he has, and with the board's mandate, that we're going to make the right decisions to give ourselves a chance to find out what we can achieve and to be sustainably successful. We're not about just getting the finals. We've got to be thinking about how we're going to win a flag and then win multiple flags, and all of our decision making needs to be around that, and it doesn't just happen like that.
Geoff, when will people in the football department sort of the next couple of years?
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, now that we've settled on this decision, we can now set the work on responding to a lot of the feedback and talking to the individuals, because we're really mindful that people's livelihoods, in some way, shape or form, whether it's the pressure that they feel through the referred pressure, or in the situation that the club's or the team's been in and it's been reported on, we understand that there's people's emotion and the emotional roller coaster that they're on needs to be addressed. And now we can do that with some certainty around the senior coach position, and we will set about doing that over the next days, weeks. But it won't be a drawn out process because we have a lot of information that we're as I said, prepared to act on, and that information will be shared, and there will be some honest conversations taking place certainly in the next few days and beyond that.
Yeah, I think in the coach's chair, you're always very bullish about what your people are capable of. I think that's the starting point. That's always the first port of call. I think we're really strong in certain areas. I think we have a really strong core of what I would term as emerging leaders, guys that have, as I just detailed, have taken ownership of the club, of the team environment and of the team performance, and we've seen them step up, and they are 23 to 25-year-old players that are going to be together for the next 5 to 7 years, and our prospects of success are going to be driven by that group of players. we need to make really prudent decisions about what we bring in from a character perspective and from a football ability perspective. So the types of players that we bring in and their characteristics. So clearly, that area is controlled by list management, and of which I'm a part of. And I look forward to those discussions, because I think this off-season, the national draft and trade period, is clearly very important for us. And clearly, and at the end of next year, it'll be important again. So we've got 18 months of really where we need to get every decision right if we want to take advantage of the strong elements in our playing list at the moment, so that it all can come together at the right time. Sorry? No, I'm just saying we need to make. It could be as soon as next year, but we've got to get those decisions right. And there's TPP considerations in that, and there's the way the game is being played, and that changes and evolves as quickly as it ever has. We need to be quick, think on our feet, and be asking the right questions to get the right answers.
It's a win-loss game for football.
It is.
It's a win-loss game, and under Bucks, we've seen the wins drop and the losses in a row.
From a pretty high base, yeah.
It was from a high base.
Yeah.
How much weight do you put to that when you're judging whether a coach should go on or not?
Well, generally, as I've said in the past, generally the walk from the stand down to the rooms, all you think about is sacking the coach when you lose, isn't it? Every supporter does that. That's what you do, the first frustration. But that's the supporter. It's when you actually sit down and analyse the club and what we need to do. And you guys have seen the strengths of Nathan Buckley. I mean, his strengths far outweigh any weaknesses that's perceived or real. So our job and Geoff's job is to augment the amazing strengths that Nathan brings to the table and put ourselves in a position to go forward.
Sorry to interrupt you. It seems pretty clear today the club is admitting that they didn't have the right support network behind Nathan and gave him the best chance to coach.
That's part of it, yes. Yeah. Yeah, well, as I said, it's part of it, yeah.
How did it get to that?
Oh, things happen. I mean, it's quite simple. There was a couple of appointments where people said yes and then said no. So you set things up, and it's human nature. You sign people up, and they say they're going to do things, and then they don't. So then, Rodney Eade also agreed to a position and left, and yeah. So, but that's not blaming them. I'm just saying things happen. The whole idea of management is responding to problems. If there's no problems, you don't need management, and we have to make sure that now we have our blueprint going forward for where we are today to where we need to get to. So no looking back, no rear vision mirror. Rear vision mirrors are too small. We're going to look out the windscreen and get going and get to where we want to get to. And that's the future of ours. We're going to... Last one, mate. Where you going?
What springs to your mind as your main priority heading into the off-season? Obviously very early, but what do you think the main priority?
My main priority and what springs to mind is to attend to my colleagues, coaches, players and staff that have been in limbo a little bit over the last 2 or 3 months. My immediate attention will turn to my part in that and making sure that we're as prompt and as respectful with communicating to them to make sure that we provide the right care and support and information as Walsh has it to the people in the right timeline. It's whilst I absolutely agree with what the board have done and the process that it's gone through with the review, and the timing of it in the wider scheme of the club's prospects is the most important, and that is just getting it done and getting it done right. But in a smaller time frame, the fact that we have people in our environment that are still yet to know what their futures look like is something that I'll be dealing with immediately.
Good on you guys, and thanks for coming down today. I'd like to thank the board, also represented by Vice President Mark Corder, who's here today, and also Geoff, thank you for all your hard work to this stage. But the real work begins from today. But we're delighted that Nathan Buckley will be our coach for the next 2 seasons. Thanks, everybody.